I don't believe in like a grand design. I don't believe in that kind of shit. I think that's all cringe. Um, like yeah, I think like maybe two stones just rubbing together might accidentally like cause life or something, or whatever. So that's my standpoint.
I'm not sure that there is none, right? I just did like a quick Google reference, or sorry, Google search. They talk about the Miller-Urey experiment. In 1953, chemists Harold Urey and Stanley Miller designed an experimental apparatus which duplicated the atmospheric conditions on Earth proposed by Opperin and Haldane. Urey and Miller filled a chamber with warm water, water vapor, methane, ammonia, and molecular hydrogen, and then introduced pulses of electrical sparks into the chamber. After 1 week, they analyzed the material in the chamber and found a variety of organic materials, including amino acids, verifying this aspect of the primordial soup theory. Yeah, I mean, they have actually.
Yeah,
Oh,
you don't need God for that. That's basically what I say. I said like grabbing stones together.
No, I thought Doobie's question was along the lines of like before the Big Bang, where we believe all matter came from.
No. He's talking about abiogenesis. That's different. That's something Big Bang.
Yeah, that's a different question.
Okay.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
I think the issue with that experiment, if I remember correctly, is that he actually used, like I forget exactly what it was, but he used like in the experiment when he was making the conditions for like early Earth's atmosphere, he used compounds that were actually not around in the early atmosphere, right? And yeah, they were the most they were able to generate was amino acids, right? So in that experiment, they found that he was using things that weren't around back then, right? So it seems like that's, so far as I know, that's I forget what the compounds were, but I know that was refuted, and they haven't been able to duplicate it without those compounds.
If you have a source for that, I'd love to see it. But like, it's from the primordial. Sure. Take your time. It's like from the primordial soup theory, right? The theory starting it all. It requires like it starts with amino acids to begin with, right? Amino acids then, which apparently like concentrated near thermal vents, like turned into more complex organic molecules. So, yeah, I mean that seems to be where it starts. And this is just my beginning of my Google search. I'm sure I could find more stuff. I've never actually looked into this, but yeah.
But if it wasn't the case, like, would you turn to God? Would you say that's God? It's like I wouldn't like. For me personally, I would just say there has to be like probably like a scientific like explanation for this, right?
Yeah, I'd assume there is a scientific explanation, but as far as I'm aware, like it's just never been found.
Okay, so you're taking a leap of faith,
right? Well, I think that I don't know if I'd call it faith. I think that I'm dealing with reality as I know it, as we can observe it right now, right?
Okay,
and
so
nowhere in that observable reality is there evidence of a God. So I'm going to put that out this judgment.
Yeah, so maybe I'm dick with just saying leap of faith. Maybe I'm just a dick with their. But yeah, I think we can all realize that we have unknowns, right? And with those unknowns, there comes that you need to have certain trust. Like even with like when it comes to like really small particles and that kind of shit. Like, well, we don't know like certain stuff about like really small particles and that kind of stuff. So that's
right.
that's why I'm saying that the stuff that I'm saying.
Hey, hey, Doobie. What's up?
Yes, sir. Hello.
So, what's science?
What's science? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I couldn't give you like a
you
definition.
don't know, right?
Well, I don't know the definition
you
of
don't- so
science
you
as
don't
like
know.
a concept off the top of my head,
Right.
but I'm sure I could Google it for you if you're having trouble with
Okay.
that.
Pretty cringe
Okay.
to ask that.
Right.
Like I
Is that
You
good
have
or
to
bad?
Google it.
Wait, hold on. Was that like going anywhere? Like,
Yeah, it's going somewhere. So you were getting into abiogenesis, talking about evolution.
yeah.
Is that right? Right. So what it says is when Earth's atmosphere had a different composition millions of years ago, which is an assumption, it allowed for the creation of life by itself in nature. So what part of that is scientific?
Because the atmosphere would be changing over time, and you would be able to tell that by kind of working your way backwards, right? Just like how we used to know that there was a higher concentration of oxygen at certain times during the Earth's history, we would then work from those compounds to figure that part out.
Okay, so no. Allowing for the creation of life in nature. But beyond that, the term atmosphere is actually a contradiction in terms because gases have no inherent shape. They take the shape of their container. So when you're saying atmosphere, you're actually saying air sphere, which is like an oxymoron. So it's actually not accurate, and we don't live in an atmosphere. But you guys don't want to go there. So
Wait, I'd like to go there.
you're talking about
Wait,
abiogenesis.
So wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. I'd
Let's
actually
go
like to
there.
go there.
Let's
'Cause
go
this is
there.
this is another thing that bounces around my brain, right? And I've looked up the explanation for this, but it wasn't satisfactory. But like, what separates us, right, the planet from like the vacuum of space, really, right? Like
Ooh.
it's the atmosphere, right? But what
Wow.
is that, and why isn't the atmosphere getting sucked out into the vacuum of space?
Yeah,
Isn't
because,
That's another
because
thing
they
that's going to bounce around my brain.
That's a good
Isn't that
question.
because of like Earth's
Gravity.
gravity holding?
Yeah, this is
so
it's
much
gravity
together,
and it's
right?
the
Well,
rotation
can
of the
I
Earth and yada
take
yada.
this,
But it
please?
just go
Can
for
I
it.
answer this? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so they say gravity. Gravity would be stronger closer to the center of mass. So, say you take like a vacuum chamber at sea level, which is where gravity would be stronger than like at higher altitudes and would have a stronger effect on gases. You take, a vacuum chamber, which people make very weak vacuum chambers compared to what the vacuum of space is claimed to be. You take a box with air and you put it in the vacuum chamber, and then you poke a hole in the box, and all the air in the box is going to fill the vacuum. Gravity is not going to hold that air in the box. So even at sea level, where gravity would be strongest, gravity can't hold air and prevent it from filling an extremely weak vacuum compared to the vacuum of space. And on no level can you demonstrate gas pressure sitting next to a vacuum without a barrier in between. You can't even have gas pressure without a container because gas pressure is the force of a gas colliding with the walls of its container. So without a container, the gas is just going to fill the available volume, let alone a vacuum of space. And, gravity can't even hold smoke down in air, let alone air in a vacuum. So outer space is provably fake, and we're talking about the second law of thermodynamics. High pressure moves to low, which also completely destroys abiogenesis, because this is for the layman. I guess you would say disorder increases over time, which is the second law. So essentially, like, if I crash my car and I just leave my car alone, it's never going to reform back to the way it was before I crashed my car. So I total my car and I put it in a lot somewhere and just let it sit there by itself in nature. It's never going to reform back to the way it was. Same thing if you take a glass cup and smash it on the ground, those bits of glass are never going to reform back into the glass cup. So they teach children that, this is science, apparently, the most complex system that we know of, the human body, formed by itself in nature, even though it violates all of natural law. And so does, the vacuum of space. But we teach children that and show them cartoons when they're, in kindergarten, and tell them that it's science. But it's not.
Why don't you email a professor to get these answers?
Wait, hold on.
What do you
I'm
mean?
actually-
They're answers? I just completely
Yeah, sure.
destroyed that whole heliocultist religion. There's no answer. People go to astrophysicists.
So religion. So like.
Hell yeah,
science-
brother.
That would be his whole point.
Yes,
Hell
this is
yeah.
the whole point. This is the whole point. Outer
So,
space. No,
what is-
Aren't
stop.
you-
Stop. Hold on. Please.
If you're going to
please,
gain
please.
such an own, like, why don't you tweet Neil deGrasse Tyson? Like,
They don't answer. They don't want to debate because people go.
So
and
nobody would
destroy
support a point that would completely
No.
destroy somebody's
Can I
credentials.
talk, please?
Go ahead,
Can I talk,
No,
Travis.
please?
because
please.
you're not making anything that fucking makes sense. If this is
Okay.
so easily provable and it's such a
No,
huge
it's not.
own, Travis,
no.
your name would be fucking plastered across the sky, brother.
Travis,
Like, what are you
brother.
doing on Twitch?
Travis, brother,
Can I
keep on
talk?
preaching.
Go
Come
ahead,
on, my
Travis.
man.
Go ahead, Travis.
Okay. So people talk to people with PhDs, professors of physics. Like there's literally videos of flat earthers going to professors in physics while they're teaching a class and fucking destroying them on outer space not being real. They have no response to it. It's
You
not
have
like,
a
oh, I need to
video
get
of
the
you?
answers. Hold on. It's not like, oh, I need to get the answers to this question.
So
This
you
is
don't have a
natural
video
law.
of you
Can you
doing that?
can you stop? Can you stop?
No, I can't.
This is
Can you start making
okay.
sense?
Well, look. The second law.
Oh.
We're talking about evolution. You guys don't want to get into your religion, which is outer space and the heliocentric model. You want to get into religion, which you think is which is fake. But
Is flat?
do you experience level water in your life?
Okay,
your
so
bathtub,
the
your
answer is
pool?
yes. He thinks the Earth was flat. Come on, continue on.
Hold on.
What
No.
was the point?
It's not a belief. This is the point. The point is, I don't believe the Earth is flat. I experience a flat stationary Earth. So does everyone else. You guys believe the globe. You don't know what science is. You believe the globe. That's your religious belief, and you want to talk shit on religion like you don't have a religion, but you do, which is the globe.
Okay,
So
that's
I
fine.
experience flat Earth just like you guys.
Did I do that? Did I do that? To be fair,
No,
like,
I was
I was saying that people could have like certain belief systems, and that people can like be crazy as well. I think you're fucking crazy, but I think you have your own belief system.
Wait, come on.
And
don't-
other people have also their belief
I'm
system.
experiencing your insanity, right? I don't believe it. I'm experiencing your insanity.
The second law of thermodynamics isn't a belief. Like water being level isn't a belief. That's not a belief system.
Well, I will let DB go first.
I think that potentially you're much better off just like addressing the arguments rather than like calling him crazy.
Okay.
He seems like an intelligent guy, right? He seems like he's done a lot of research and work into this, and so like just treat him like a human being, and respect the argument.
Okay.
So Travis, like so it sounds like you think the world is flat, or you're experiencing a flat Earth or flat stationary Earth, right? So do you believe that there's like a what do they call it? The water, the dome, the water dome. I forget exactly what it's called in the Bible.
The firmament.
The firmament. Yeah. Do you believe in that, or are you like a Christian flat earther? Or?
No, not really.
Okay, so
look. If you're gonna ask me questions about this, because look, if you want to talk about flat Earth, I came in here because of the whole evolution God thing. If you want to talk about flat Earth, I could just lay it out for you in like 5 seconds, because you're gonna ask me a bunch of dumb questions that aren't really relevant. So if you want to talk about flat Earth, what it comes down to is geometry. So the Earth has the globe Earth has claimed geometry. So if you're gonna try to prove the Earth is a globe, you need to give me verifiable measurements of this claimed geometry. Yet when people go out and actually measure like bodies of water, all of them are flat. Beyond, they're like the long distance world record for long distance photography is mountains 273 miles away. The tops of the mountains should be 3 miles down around the curve of the Earth. There's hundreds of observations, measurements. Reality like doesn't conform to this globe geometry. So it's really that simple. Also,
Seems complicated for me.
Okay,
I joined the Marine Corps.
There's a certain rate of curvature, right? So like over a certain distance, the Earth will be curving a certain amount. So if you're gonna measure this, you would measure it over like a body of water, like the oceans, lakes, shit like that. Because
why?
Yeah, because land is like not even, it's not level, but water is level. So water will be conforming to this globe at a like
why
level.
Why would water be level though?
Because it just is hydrostatics. That's what they use to like level out. That's what a level is. Like if you work construction, they literally just have like a little water bubble. Yeah. So the surface of water is level. So you're going to measure the curve of the Earth.
Level though?
Yeah. Why would a large body of water be level?
Yeah, exactly. It should be curving. That's the whole point. It should be curving with the claimed geometry of the globe Earth, but it's not. That's the whole point.
Why wouldn't it just attach to the same side all at a level distance? I don't understand.
Why isn't it like falling off the sides? Like, is there like a wall around? Is there like a
gravity? What do you mean? You guys are like disagreeing with your own claim right now. I don't get it.
No, I'm like genuinely curious. It's like what you think.
I'm trying to.
So you're saying it's like
grasp
a flat stationary Earth, right? But we have oceans, right, that we can see.
Okay, if the Earth is a globe, then the
Right.
oceans should be curving.
Why?
But
Because there
hold
would be
on,
curvature if the Earth is a globe. I mean, the Earth would be a ball
Yeah.
if it's a globe.
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So on this
don't-
flat stationary like Earth, like why isn't the water like falling off the sides? Like what's
Why would
holding
it-
the water in?
How do you fall off a lake? You think you
Wait.
could fall off a lake?
Oh, so you think that there's like land all along the sides of the oceans?
Well, water takes the shape of its container. So like if there was water, like if water could fall off the side, then there would be no water because it would all just fall off. It would have fallen off by
Right.
now.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. Like,
But
what
it's not a
stops
disk
it?
in outer space.
Then what is it? I'm sorry, you said it's on a disk in outer space.
Cartoon. I'm not saying like, oh, it's a flat Earth, but there's all these other planets, and the flat Earth is going around the sun. It's like that whole entire cartoon is fake. So we're not. There's not out.
What?
So
space.
what you're
so
saying
like,
was disproven thousands of years ago using a camel, 2 wells, and measuring footsteps. So if you
Eratosthenes.
what? No.
Yeah.
So
sticks and
if
shadows.
So
Yeah,
if
that
you
was
have
the-
a
that
well
little
in one
candle through
time
the-
zone and a well in another time zone, and you pay someone to tell you when the reflection of the sun is directly over one of the wells, and then you count the camel steps to the next well, and then you look at what time the sun is reflecting in that well, you can see that the sun was overhead in the wells at 2 different time points, which tells us that we have an arc length. And then we can measure the camel's footsteps. We can do just a little bit of high school math, trigonometry, and we can approximate the circumference of the Earth. And that was done thousands of years ago.
Okay, that was a good little breakdown of that. So
You can do that today. You could do that today, and people have done it, and they put the videos on YouTube
Yeah, I'm
using
aware.
bicycles and sticks.
Relax. Why don't you relax? You don't need to spiral out. We're talking about
That's not,
Eratosthenes.
man, I'm explaining a thousands of year old physics to you,
okay.
which is
Relax.
it's crazy that in the year 2022 we still have people doubting what like people from the
I
Greek
never heard this
era were
before.
able to figure out.
Yeah. Okay, are you done? Can you relax? Okay. You're talking about Eratosthenes supposedly measuring the radius of the Earth. So can you tell me
the radius of the Earth based on an arc length?
Yeah. Can you tell me how he accounted for refraction?
Why would he need to do that?
Oh, doesn't light bend in the air?
Well, he's doing an approximation. How much would that refraction throw the estimate off by?
So he didn't account for
Wait,
it.
hold on. I told you he was approximating. So how much would that throw the
Right.
approximation off by?
So, do you observe parallel sun rays?
Hold on. Let's not get off of
Yeah.
the refraction first. Can you explain the formula?
No.
we use
This
to
is the
calculate
refraction
reflection
point.
for the atmosphere?
I
Exactly.
love
How
this
that would affect the
nerd dick
calculation.
measuring contest.
Exactly.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Can you just
So
explain it to me? I'd love to hear the math.
he thinks Eratosthenes measured the radius of the Earth, but he actually
No,
didn't.
I think he approximated it based on an arc length.
Well, he didn't approximate anything. Look, he supposedly measured the Earth as a ball based on parallel sun rays and like looking at a shadow. But when you go outside,
So,
and I don't know if
no,
you've ever
that's not true.
Hold on, could you relax? I don't know if you've ever let
saying
sunlight
things that are
into
just
your
not
house.
true.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't even know the claim, so you don't even know what you're talking about.
No,
Well,
I'm
I don't
saying
know.
that sun
yeah,
rays
okay.
can't be perfectly parallel, right? Because we have
No.
distances involved and you can measure them out. They're just going to be very
Oh my
close to
God.
parallel, which is why you're getting an approximation.
Right.
Is that what
So have you-
approximation is?
God. Have you ever let sunlight into your house through a window?
Travis,
No,
are
I've
you going
never
to
seen
answer
that.
his fucking question?
I'm trying to answer it, but he just doesn't
No,
get
you're
the
giving
point.
a different example. Answer his fucking question.
What question? What an approximation is?
No, you said that the refraction would affect the estimate. I asked by how much.
Exactly, that's the question. So that's
Yeah,
what.
so fucking answer it.
No. This is the globe question. This is what you don't understand. This is what
No,
you
answer
need to answer.
his question. Answer his
Yeah. No,
question.
I'm trying to answer it, but
he
you're like
can't,
interrupting
and
me.
he
I'm trying to
won't. He has
explain
no
it
idea
to
what the math behind refraction is, or what it looks like.
Okay, so just help me
Okay.
out. I'm trying to understand
no.
the answer to his question. So
Yeah.
help me out.
So, in order to calculate refraction, light
What does
bending around
refraction
ball.
have?
Can you
Well,
can
hold
you
on.
relax, please? Holy
No,
shit!
I
dude.
can't. Dude, you gotta
I
help
know
me
you're
out.
spiraling out. Your religion
Go-
is
go-
If you actually
fragile.
Aaron,
hold on,
Aaron,
hold on.
Okay,
help-
Tr-
hold on.
Yeah,
Aaron,
if you If you want to learn about
ask the question
what
again.
refraction is, what you want to do is Google
Oh my
Snell's
God.
law, and you can read about Snell's law, and it has to do
Wow.
with the angle that basically light is going to move through in different waves, and it has to do with
Yeah.
the fluid
The angle of
light is
incidence.
moving
Yeah.
through, right? Okay, so that's
Yeah.
it's Snell's law. If you want to read more
So
about it,
what's
if
going
you
on right
actually,
now?
if you actually look at the amount of refraction that would have accounted at that experiment, it does not change the approximation at all.
Yes, okay.
I think what's going on right now is
No.
Travis is breaking the programming that they've got, and their defense mechanisms have been trained into them are kicking in.
He's like,
There you go.
he's just trying to say something that people have been saying, like the globe proof is actually a guy with sticks from 200 years before Jesus was born.
That was the
But-
first time they did it. He approximated the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Earth.
It's
right.
actually way
So,
easier to do
can-
now because
It's
any of us
exactly-
can
It
build.
is.
Any of
The
us
point
can
is
build
no,
a
it's
rocket
not.
in our
It's not.
backyard.
Exactly.
I
The
built
point is that this
rockets,
guy is so far
right?
behind physics that he's literally being schooled by a dude from
Why don't
2,000
you
years
just,
ago
like-
that had 2 wells and a camel.
Why don't you just let them
No,
respond?
no.
Though?
But
Yeah,
most people don't
guys,
have.
you-
Most people don't have
Guys,
camels,
you're-
so
you're
using
not-
that as an
you-
example is not super easy.
Guys, we
You're
gotta let them
spiraling out,
respond
yeah.
so that we can. So then
Sure.
and when, they'll say something, and then you can respond to it, and then we'll have a conversation. Okay, great.
Yeah, they're
So
spiraling
Travis,
out.
please.
Yeah, it happens all the time because people get emotional when their religion is it's called cognitive dissonance. But
I'm religious. I
So-
just don't believe that the Earth is flat. That's all.
well, me either. You believe in the globe Earth, so that's your religious belief. I know you don't.
No,
you don't
I
get
don't.
it.
No, don't
No, I
take
have
the bait.
built-
Don't take the
Yeah.
bait.
No.
Don't take the bait.
Can I please?
I
can
have built
please
rockets.
Okay,
I've
then
sent them to
actually
space.
respond.
I've
Then-
seen the
Ah.
camera.
Then
Jesus
then
Christ.
actually,
It was round.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so Travis, actually respond, right? Like,
All right.
go ahead, please.
Sorry. Okay. So Eratosthenes. Basically, you can show what Eratosthenes did on a flat surface, like on a flat table. If you just have like a light above a table and you have like a bunch of cups, the cups far away from the light will have more of a shadow than the cups right underneath the light. So essentially, what he did was he assumed that the sun's rays are coming in parallel because the sun's like some crazy distance away. The sun's rays are coming in parallel. So because he moves a stick really far away, like. He has a stick under the sun. There's no shadow around the stick. He walks really far away, puts another stick, and there's a shadow because the Earth's surface must
You cut out, Travis.
They got him.
mean the Earth's surface is curved, not that the
Hold
sun's
on.
rays are coming
Travis,
in at
you
all
cut
these
out.
different angles.
You
Oh,
cut out, Travis. Yeah,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you were
What-
at. He just put the stick down and then he moved to the other spot. That's where you're at now.
Okay, so yeah. So basically, he just assumed that the sun's rays come in parallel, and basically, if you look at the sun and do any sort of like I could show you right now, the sun's rays do not come in parallel at all. So basically, he just kind of assumed that the Earth was a globe, and it even says that also. It says he knew the Earth was a globe before he even measured it as a globe. So he basically just assumed the Earth was a globe, looked at a shadow, and assumed that it's because the sun's rays come in parallel, which is observably, like, we never observe the sun's rays being parallel. So
never
this
fully
whole
parallel 'cause it's from
this whole
yeah.
Eratosthenes looking at a shadow thing works on a flat plane the same way. Yeah.
Only if the sun is very close to the Earth, to your flat Earth, and in that
So-
point you'd be fried.
Can I explain why what he just said doesn't make any sense?
Please do.
Yeah, so none of that had anything to do with refraction. Notice the question I asked was how much would refraction affect the outcome of the approximation? And none of that he mentioned has anything to
Yeah.
do with refraction. That's number one.
Mm.
And then number two, the difference between shadows on a flat or a curved plane is easily measurable, and we can just account for that in our approximation, right? So if you're saying, oh, well, it would work on a flat plane too, you're right, the shadows would be different on a flat plane, and we can use geometry and math to measure what that would be and see which one is correct. And when you do that math, and countless people have done it, you find an arc length and then you approximate the size of the Earth. It's not that difficult.
Okay, so the refraction thing. So in order to calculate refraction, which is basically talking about light bending around this ball, in order to calculate light
Exactly,
bending
but
around,
okay.
What ball? Light
in order
bending
for
around
these
the sun or
observations-
light bending around the globe?
No.
Which ball?
light bending in the Earth's air,
That's
basically
cool. So,
around
yeah,
curvature.
So again, refraction is when light moves from one type of fluid to another type of fluid. You'll get Snell's law, which will apply. And if you want to see how that affects it, you can Google Snell's law. Of course, we use
How do
this
you
if we're
spell
going to.
Snell?
SNELL. So this is like, this is the physics that you get in engineering physics 3. So this is still like first year university physics. And you do all the proofs for all this stuff. So
Yeah. So if you want to check,
do you want to have something? You got something to say?
Oh, I'm just gonna get to bed. So,
Okay, thank you so
talk to
much.
you guys
man.
later.
Thanks, Doobie. Have a good one, man.
Yeah,
Damn
have a
it.
good one.
Doobie, great talking to you.
Okay, go ahead, Travis. You can respond to Snell's law.
if you wanted to, or if you want to look at watch party chat, I put some bunch of images of the sun. So in order to, because like, okay, so there's all these observations that people do that, you know, don't conform to the globe geometry, like, you know, level laser above a body of water for 20 miles, or seeing a horizon 10 miles away at 1 foot observer height. So the globe response to this is refraction. And the reason why I brought that up is actually because that's what your response will be when I show you stuff that completely debunks the globe geometry. You'll say, oh, refraction, which is hilarious because refraction by itself completely debunks the globe. But basically, in order to calculate refraction, which is, you know, it would be light bending around this ball, you need ball first. You need curved gases. So in order to calculate the light bending around the ball, yeah. Well,
so I'm sorry, Glenn. Are you saying that fiber optics aren't a thing? Like fiber optic cables don't exist because they're not balls? Is that what you're saying?
What does cables have to do with what we're talking about?
He's saying you can refract without it needing to be a ball.
Right.
Yeah. Do you not understand how refraction plays into
so
fiber optics
you
cables?
think the Earth is flat, or
what?
Wait, is the Earth flat or what?
Goodness. No, I'm saying refraction works in multiple different types of fluid geometries.
Okay.
Do you not see why that matters?
What's your point?
All right. Oh my goodness. So you'll get refraction whether you're on a ball or you're in a cylinder or you're on a flat plane. Refraction will exist. Snell's law doesn't like have an implication that starts off with a premise of you're on like a curved surface or something. It just has to do with fluids.
Okay, but the dense, like, if the Earth's a ball or if it's flat, then the density gradient of the gas, like the atmosphere, the air, will be like either curved or it will be flat, right?
The density
like the air around a ball.
The gas. So the rate of change of density in air as we draw a radius from, say, the Earth's surface up until some like arbitrarily defined low pressure point that we call space. That rate of change can be arbitrarily set up, right? The first derivative of the density of the atmosphere can be arbitrary based on the mechanics and the geometry and the physics that are going on that planet. And you could set that up for arbitrarily different shapes. I don't get your point.
Aaron, this is a very accurate point that you're making, but I'm wondering, can I ask one question of our friend here? Because I'm in amateur rocketry, right? And I've made rockets and put GoPros on them, and they went up through the sky, and then the world stopped looking flat and became round, and the arc of the rocket showed us that round thing was moving like a ball, and then it came back down, and we can see that this thing didn't just disappear into somewhere. It obviously went from place to place. So in your worldview, what happened to my rocket during that time frame?
What's the altitude that you got to?
Well, you don't have to go very far before you can see the curvature.
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson says that you can't see curve at 128,000 feet or at 63 miles up on those Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos doing parabolic flights is too low to see the curve of the Earth. So you didn't see the curve of the Earth. It's just the lens.
That's not accurate, because there's a circle that you can see of the Earth, and as you move over it, that circle changes what's underneath it. So how is that happening?
What do you mean? There's a circle? What are you talking about?
Yeah, there's a horizon, and that horizon is always circular. But as you move, that horizon changes, and it's still circular.
Well, you're just talking about the lens, because there's like videos at extremely high altitudes that it's just a flat horizon.
If you had a 360-degree camera and you were going up through space, up above where you are, 360 degrees from where you are now, there's Earth beneath you and sky above you, and as you get higher, the amount of Earth in that 360 gets smaller, right? And as you move through space, that Earth moves underneath you. So I'm confused as to how we managed to get to a point that there's that we can travel through space. In fact, humans can go on these rockets and see these things. Like, this is not something that rarely happens like it was in the 60s. We have people doing this all of the time, and not just like paid government shills. You could do it if you wanted to pay for it. I mean, I don't understand how you can describe something that we can observationally observe that I have done as not being real.
Okay, so is Neil deGrasse Tyson wrong when he says from 63 miles up you can't see the curve of the Earth?
What does that have to do with his question?
So he's saying he sees curve from a high altitude, but Neil deGrasse Tyson.
So you're saying if Neil deGrasse Tyson makes a claim, you believe it?
No, it's just a hostile witness.
Then why are you bringing up claims by Neil deGrasse Tyson if you don't trust him anyway?
No, so Neil is right. Neil is right.
Oh, okay.
You aren't seeing. Wait a second. You aren't seeing the globe, but what you are seeing is the Earth, and it is curved, and it forms a circle. So any perspective that you have from Earth, you cannot. Sorry, go on.
That's not what he's saying. He's not saying that. He says you can't see any curvature. He's not talking about seeing the Earth as a globe. But Rob Simmons, the guy who made the Blue Marble image, says that you can't see the Earth as a globe until you're about 1 million miles away. But that's not what Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying. He's saying you can't even see curvature from 63 miles up.
I have to leave, but before I go, I just want to throw the question out one more time. Could you explain how refraction changes the approximation of the arc length from the original question? Cool. And I'm out, guys. See you later. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, word.
Thank you.
What was the question?
Oh, it just got out. Oh, it just got
explain,
out.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Many concussions.
Yeah.
Can you? Oh, go ahead, Prime. If
you have the question, go ahead.
Can you explain how refraction? Oh fuck.
Refraction.
Globe.
I'm sorry. I don't know how the exact question.
Damn it, Aaron. Ron.
Pause. Do you have the exact question?
We need pause on this one.
Can you explain the refraction? I don't know. I'm gonna fuck it up. I'm sorry.
I think I know it. Basically, the Earth's air density changes. So higher up, the air is less dense. So as the air moves through these different densities, as light moves through different densities, it will refract. So all you need to do to even, oh my god, this is just so much. If you check the watch party chat, I put a measurement right there. Different radius measurements of the Earth. Al-Biruni, claimed measurements. Al-Biruni and Eratosthenes, which both of them didn't account for refraction. So the refraction argument is something Globers like to bring up to try to say like, oh, this is why we can see too far because light's bending around this globe Earth. But the people who initially measured the Earth as a ball didn't account for this refraction. So it's like I show you a measurement that debunks the globe geometry, and then you try to bring up refraction, but refraction by itself is debunking the claimed geometry.
So,
I mean, I can't argue his argument, but could you answer Posh's question?
What was it? My internet cut out.
It's all right, man.
When he was talking.
Luckily, we still have here.
Let me put it a different way then. Something that might be relatable to more people. Let's say that you go in a plane and you look out the window, maybe the pilots let you up the front and you look out the window and there's a horizon all around you, forming a circle all around you. And as you move over the surface of the Earth, that horizon changes and your viewpoint, that circle that you can see, shifts. Things fall away behind you, right? That is because the Earth is a sphere, right? And we can only see a certain radius at any given time as we move around the sphere. Why would that radius exist if the Earth wasn't a sphere?
Okay. Check the watch party chat. on Discord. So you're talking about seeing from high up, but I can show you like balloon footage from way higher than 35,000 feet, where it's just a
Sorry, you cut out again.
Yeah, you cut out.
curve.
Hello? Welcome back.
Did I? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you cut out. You said balloon footage way
Yeah.
higher than
35,000 feet, which is there's balloon footage way higher than that. Which shows do I keep cutting out?
No, you're fine. Keep going.
Okay.
We'll let you know.
You're okay now.
Oh,
you're fine.
And now he's cutting out.
Hundreds of miles. So
yeah, now you
just
did
cut
cut
out
out. You did
before.
cut out just now.
hold on, give me 1 minute. Give me 1
Okay.
minute.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
See the light.
It's the government trying to keep him from revealing the secret.
It's like
The
a
light
ball.
in his,
I
the
think
light in
that
his
the,
fiber optic cable isn't like working.
I think
right.
the
Not refracting
glass,
properly.
the glass on the planes is just curved, and that's why we perceive it that way. You know, just saying, just saying.
Because but you can change which window you're looking at. You still see the same thing. The curvature on
It's
those
all
windows-
curved.
Okay.
It's all curved.
Give it.
No.
Travis, go ahead, please.
Okay, so there's balloon footage from way higher than 35,000 feet, which you see a level horizon from left to right for hundreds of miles. Because when something moves away from your vision, it decreases in size because it's moving away. It shrinks its angular size shrinks. So when you move above the Earth, the higher up you go, you can see more because it's
what is
moving
the
away from your
horizon?
vision.
If the Earth's flat,
Okay, that's a good question. But so you can see at 120,000 feet. I could show you like right now a bunch, but you can see from left to right, hundreds of miles level horizon, and there should be 6,600 feet of curvature for 100 miles. Yet there's supposed to be only, like, people say there's curvature at the beach, like you can see a boat going over the curve of the Earth. Yet from left to right, it's flat, even though you can see farther from left to right. So it's like they're basically saying the Earth is curved like a cylinder, which doesn't make any sense.
Have you ever been out to sea on a boat?
Yeah.
Because then the same phenomenon appears in all directions.
Horizon?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the horizon is the position where the sky appears to touch the ground. So basically the horizon distance will change based on the ambient conditions, the atmospheric conditions. Like, it's basically like if there's fog, you can't really see that far away. You know, you can see further or less far, based on the conditions. But the horizon is actually just the limit of your eye's ability to resolve things. So you can't read a book from like 200 feet away. If that book keeps moving farther and farther away, eventually you won't be able to see it. So
but
that's
we
what the
don't have to
horizon
rely
is.
on just eyes anymore, right? Like we have binoculars
Exactly.
and things.
Right.
And you still reach
And
a
with
point where they can't
binoculars-
see.
Right. No. With binoculars, there should be 16 feet of curvature for 5 miles. But anybody with basic binoculars, you can just go to the beach, put the binoculars right above the water, and you could see 5 miles away. And
Where
there's
did we get
way more
16
powerful.
feet from? I'm sorry, I don't fucking know this.
The Eratos, the guy, Sticks and Shadows dude. Sticks and
Okay.
Shadows. Yeah. Who actually didn't measure. The whole point is there's this claimed geometry, but when you look into where that actually even comes from, he actually never even measured the Earth as a ball. And, well, anyways. So there's stuff way more powerful than just binoculars, like the Nikon P1000, which you could see, like I sent a GIF, which I could send the video to, of an observation done in Santa Barbara of somebody at 1 foot observer height, and they zoom in on these oil platforms 6 and 9 miles away, and you could see the horizon behind both the platforms at 10 miles away. But based on the globe geometry, the horizon can only be at 1.2 miles away at 1 foot observer height. So the higher up you go, the further away the horizon's going to be. So based on the globe geometry, at 6 feet, the horizon's going to be 3 miles away. Yet this guy at 1 foot, using a zoom lens, can see a 10-mile away horizon. And there's one that's way further.
Wait a second. You just said that this was based on my eyes. So why does how tall I am affect my eyesight?
Because it's when you move above the plane, you can see more. It's just the angular size. Like the higher up you go, you can see more.
That angular size only works if it's a circle. If it's a flat surface, then it doesn't change. What angle is changing?
Like, okay, your eyes basically form cones. Like when you look down a hallway, right? The ceiling and the floor and the walls, like they all come in. Like the ceiling will come down. Like if you look down a really long, if you look down a street, like this is how artists will like draw depth. If you look down a street, the street lights that get further away from you are appearing to descend and like come in. So when you go up, basically your perspective matrix, like the limit of your eyes and your eyes' capability, changes.
But if I'm in a hallway and I look at 1 foot, I can't see less distance than if I look at 3 foot.
So,
yeah,
quick question. You're saying that someone took a telephoto lens from the Nikon P100 at sea level and was able to see out with a clear picture at 10 miles?
Well, it's not a picture; it's a video, and it's not completely clear, but it doesn't really. It's not really affecting.
In general, at sea level, you can't see a very clear picture zoomed at very far because of how dense the
moisture.
Yeah, because of the moisture.
That's why the longest. There's more moisture over water. That's why the longest observation.
Well, yeah. The big problem is it causes a bunch of ghosting, which creates artifacts and makes horizons seem inconsistent. So it's not a good test. Those high-powered telephoto lenses are usually intended for looking up into the sky, so you don't have to deal with as much atmosphere.
Well, it doesn't really matter because that observation specifically is 10 times the globe like it's 10 times falsifying the globe geometry. So even if you want to argue any of these factors, none of them are enough to explain it away because it's 10 times. The radius would have to be 10 times bigger. But this is why the longest. What you're saying about?
Wait, how is that? If it's ghosting and giving you, no, we're not going to be. No, we're not going to be looking up anything here. So just kind of explain.
No, I put it in
position.
the Discord. I put it in the Discord.
Yeah, so that's apparently supposed to be
the world's longest distance observation is actually done in the desert because it's like dry. That's where you can do really long observations.
High desert, not at or below sea level. But
yeah. Sonia,
I'm looking at these photos and
hold on. I'll let Sonia go, and then we'd love to hear from you. Sonia, please.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure I actually trust it because at sea level you would have so much ghosting because this is something I've dealt with a lot. Like you go out less than a mile and you've got so much ghosting, it's a very inconsistent picture.
When you say ghosting, what do you mean?
So ghosting is effectively it's like aberrations in the picture because of how much higher density atmosphere you're having to pass visual light through in order to get the picture back. And so that causes a lot of, you're going to get two different effects. One is you're going to have a lot of refraction, which happens because of how dense the atmosphere is along sea level. But then in addition to that, a lot of light also will get absorbed and not come back, will not make it back or make it all the way into to where you are. So it's a
well, yeah, that's my claim.
Coming in for the picture.
Yeah, you're just helping you're helping it because that's exactly right. It's at sea level where you can't really see that far, and it's still 10 times too far away.
When you're going,
and the whole point is it is refraction because the horizon will move day to day. So the horizon isn't a geometric curve; it's an optical effect that changes day to day based on the conditions. So it's not curvature.
Well, when it's lighter,
so
when you've got low pressure, when you have a low pressure weather, you can see much farther. But
exactly. But you don't really have a claim though because the horizon isn't curvature; it's refracted.
No. So I'm not sure what you're talking about there, but refraction it varies depending on the wavelengths of light, right? So like lower shorter wavelength light will pass through more moisture with less refraction, and higher wavelengths or other way around. So like infrared will get absorbed really quickly and will refract a lot and dissipate a lot, and blue light will pass through a lot more moisture in the atmosphere without as much refraction or dissipation. And
Okay.
and depending on the wavelengths, you can have more of it passing through and refracting more gradually over longer distances, which can cause a curvature of light. So it
Right,
depends
but
on what
because of
wavelengths
that,
you're talking about.
yeah, because of what you're saying, like everything you're saying, there actually is no claim for a globe in the first place, though. Like
How?
if you actually
Explain that.
understand, yeah. So if you understand where this even comes from, the supposed curvature rate, um,
Well, why do
everything
you
that you're
think
saying,
that what I'm
yeah,
saying, explain specifically, because I just explained two things. One, that there is refraction, excessive refraction with some wavelengths, and there's a lot less refraction with other wavelengths. So explain to me how those
yeah,
two
ex-
things
sure.
somehow make this
So if
debunk
you
this.
account for like or if you just say that like some crazy amount of like the max amount of refraction possible, like you just guesstimate some crazy amount of refraction, uh, the max it can go at 1 foot observer height isn't even 2 miles away, the horizon. So that observation, like even if you try to say the light's bending around this ball, like refraction's it's still way off, like it's still 10 times farther
How?
away, which no amount of refraction can explain.
Wait, how is that
Because
still
if
off?
you okay, if you go with the max amount of refraction, like you can go to globe earth calculators and go to 120% refraction. The max amount is
120% refraction of what
yeah.
wavelengths?
I don't know.
930 nanometers? 550? 420?
I don't know. But
So then why are you even using this? Why are you even calling this
what do you mean?
a debunking of the curvature of the Earth? Because some
What do you,
wavelengths
it's not
can
a yeah. It's not a laser beam. They're just doing an observation. So it's not like
doesn't
they're
have to be
shooting.
doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Well, so first of
So
all, a
so it's not yeah.
laser beam is just concentrated wavelengths of light, right? So that are all moving at the same phase. But light is a spectrum. The visible light, like what we see, which is roughly 400 nanometers to like 700 or something like that. No, less than that, I think.
Okay.
So that's like visual spectrum for us. And then, of course, there's still visual spectrum for other creatures with different eyes, right? Who can go much further into ultraviolet and in far or
Like a
far
lot of
ultraviolet
butterflies and stuff like
and near infrared and far infrared, etc.
Yeah.
Um,
So you
so
you know what wavelengths?
so
It's just what our eyes can perceive.
yeah, so
Yeah.
now so red light, which is up in the 600 range, it it's going to refract much more readily through moisture, and violet, which is down in the 400 range, won't. So
Yeah.
what is
Right.
this maximum refraction you're talking about? Tell me what it is that you're talking about, because I've never
Well,
heard this
yeah.
before. So I'd like
Yeah.
to know something specific and give me the wavelength that you're talking about.
Right. Well, this is the whole problem. It's if you're gonna try to calculate the refraction around a ball, you need the ball Earth. You need to plug in the radius to these equations, which you don't. There is no radius. Like there's no claim for a radius of the Earth, though, which is the whole problem. Like you can't even account for refraction because there's no radius. There's no ball. So if you're gonna
There's
try to account for
refraction in
light
a
bending around a ball, yeah,
pane of glass
So
has refraction.
it's kind of I'm gonna just say this. It's kind of the reason I jumped in is just because light is sort of my thing. Electromagnetic, radiation is just sort of a thing that I've focused on. So when I heard you talking about refraction and stuff, I thought, geez, it sounds like this guy's pulling this stuff out of his ass. Sounds like he doesn't know what he's talking about here. So I was trying to narrow down on that. Now I don't know much about like astrophysics. I do know a bit about both classical mechanics and quantum physics. And I know that you glossed over a lot of things there. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to go kind of back to what we were talking about what you guys were talking about earlier with mass
Space?
and gravity.
Oh yeah. Well, astrophysics doesn't exist because outer space doesn't exist. So it's like saying space physics, but there's no space. So
That's quite a religion you have there. But
no, astrophysics is the religion. Like I don't.
you just said it
this
doesn't
belief.
exist. You just said it doesn't exist.
You believe it exists. I don't.
Do you believe in?
Well, hold on one second. You haven't actually assessed what it is that I believe yet. So,
well, you said I have a religion when it's the opposite. So it's
because
kind of obvious.
because you've made a claim when there's a lot of evidence to suggest to the contrary. You
It's
you
not a
could
claim,
say
it's just
you could say that that based on the evidence that you've been presented, you don't feel a reason to take it as a conclusion. And I think that's perfectly fair. I think a lot of the stuff that's worked with is something that people don't necessarily have to take as a conclusion. But so
now outer space
are you
is
aware
provably
of
fake? Yeah, it's provably fake because the second law of thermodynamics debunks it. High pressure.
So you're
moves to
working
low
off of
spontaneously.
theories as well, right?
No,
So
that's
you
a
say
law.
that
Second law. So
why
high
is it
pressure
why
moves to
wait
low
why is it
spontaneously.
why is it why does it a law?
Because it's just what happens, and
Well,
no
can you
one had to come up with it.
Can you explain
Yeah.
how it happens?
So high pressure moves to low spontaneously. So basically, if you have like a tire with air in it and you pop the tire, the air in the tire goes out. High pressure moves slow. That's how your lungs work. It's how you breathe. Like when you expand your lungs, it decreases pressure. Air goes in. Then you contract your lungs, increases pressure.
And
you expel
so
air.
how does this
So high
debunk?
pressure moves to low spontaneously. Yet our 14 psi gas pressure atmosphere is supposedly touching the 10 to the negative 17 torr vacuum of outer space with no barrier in between. If that was the case, our air would just fill the vacuum.
First of all, it isn't. It's much thinner up there, and it gets gradually thinner as you go higher and higher up.
So vacuum gradient, yeah. You can't demonstrate a vacuum gradient, or excuse me, a gas pressure gradient touching a vacuum without a barrier, and you can't even have gas pressure gradient without containment, anyways.
Do you know
You
why
can't
that is?
demonstrate because you need a container for gas pressure.
Nope, not exactly. Do you know what gravity is?
Yeah, the bending and warping of space-time caused by mass.
Mm-hmm. And so
what
is mass doing?
Hold on. If I drop something, right?
Let's forget about classical mechanics. Let's go into quantum. How does mass work?
Hold on. So if I drop something,
classical mechanics are not the same as quantum mechanics.
It's okay.
So just because the way something works, the way we physically observe it.
Hold on. Relax.
Well, hang on.
So if
I'm trying to keep you on track, and you're kind of
talk about gravity. So you want to talk about gravity? Let's just.
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to.
It'll be done in like a second. Yeah,
right,
it's not going to be a pivot at all. So if I drop something, gravity is claimed to be the bending and warping of space-time. If I drop something, you need to manipulate the bending and warping of space-time as an independent variable, and manipulate that to determine that it's the cause of an object dropping. So like I drop a pencil, you need to okay, let me remove the bendy space-time and see if the pencil still falls when I let go of it, or
so
add more
you're blending two things. You're blending classical
It's
and
called the
quantum
scientific
mechanics.
method, and you can't manipulate the bending and warping of space-time as an independent variable.
Well, first of all, I can tell that you don't know what the bending and warping of space-time. Hold on, no, I think you actually need to relax. You've been very condescending. So do me a big favor. Just be a little more charitable. Don't be quite as condescending, and let's both work together.
I'm not
all right?
condescending. I'm not.
Oh, you're being super condescending. But I'm willing to be chill with you.
Like that. Yeah.
I'm willing to. I've been listening to you for a while now. You've been super condescending.
No, not to you. I was condescending to other people, but not to you.
Well, yeah, but you're being condescending to me now.
Okay. So let's just move forward, please.
Anyways, you're blending two different schools of mechanics here. And you're blending completely different separate terminologies from one to the other. So dropping a ball in the physical world that you and I observe is not the same thing as how gravity works on a quantum level.
Okay, but what I was pointing out is
what's the difference?
do you know what, yeah, exactly. Do you know what pseudoscience is?
Well, can she answer?
We've just heard a lot of it now.
Do you know what pseudoscience
Yeah,
is?
let's sorry, go ahead.
Well, let him answer.
Pseudoscience is something that purports itself to be science, but does not actually use the scientific method to get to the
Okay.
solutions that it claims to have.
Right. So, can you tell me the experiment where gravity was manipulated to prove that it was the cause of objects falling?
Gravity being manipulated?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You know, the scientific method.
What do you mean by proving that gravity is being manipulated?
Yeah.
Who's manipulating it?
How did you
And who's
manipulate
claiming
the
it?
bending and warping of space-time to prove it was the cause of objects dropping? Yeah. Well, you
Explain
can't
what
do
you
that
mean
and
by
no one can do that.
manipulating. Hold on.
Exactly.
Define the
Exactly.
term
You can't
manipulating.
manipulate that.
Sonia,
you know what?
Sonia, I'll let you have a little bit more, but
So
there's someone else who wants to jump in.
So testing and observation are not the same as manipulating. Explain the word manipulating.
No,
to me.
it's called an experiment, and in an experiment, you need
In
to
an
manipulate an
experiment-
independent variable to verify the cause of an effect. So if you're gonna prove that gravity is the cause of this effect of like me dropping something, you need to manipulate the cause, which is bendy space-time. But you can't do that. So by definition, gravity is pseudoscience. Yeah.
No. First of all,
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't
be a
have to
cunt
manipulate.
and
You
let
don't
her
have.
answer.
You don't have to manipulate things to observe and calculate, right? Now, what you're talking about is you're talking about the difference between scientific theory and scientific experimentation with testing, right?
Well, the scientific method. Yeah.
Well, the scientific
I understand
method
what you're saying. You're
includes
talking
all
about
that.
the effect.
The scientific
You're talking about-
method is a series of observation and observation, logging, testing, and experimentation,
right?
And then confirmation of those through first you have peer review, and then confirmation of those results and such. And then when you get to the end of all of that and eventually have consensus, you can move that into the realm of a
consensus and peer review.
Sorry, I want to let someone else in.
So theories oftentimes cannot go much further than theory, right? Until you can get further along the way to developing more of the scientific school that gets you to the point of being able to do things like experimentation and testing.
So
now we can do experimentation with measurement, where we can measure things like we've been able to measure gravitational waves, and then we can take the data from that, and we can build theories on top of that.
I gotta let somebody win.
Well, the problem is that this guy's been cutting me off the whole time that I've been trying to talk and been very rude. I'm trying to go and explain the thing that he's asking. So allow me to finish that. Or we can just fuck off. But this guy's been pretty rude to me.
Hold on, Sonia, please. There are other people on the panel. I know what's going on. Please.
I know. I just wanted to finish this. All right, fine.
Okay. We will get back to you in a second, please. Okay.
It's gonna move on by that time.
Oh my God, Sonia, please. I gotta let some other people in. Okay, Mythic, please.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I missed the beginning of this. Did you talk at all about who do you think? Number one, I would like to ask, I've heard you talk, I think I heard you on Dylan's, and I think that you also had a talk with Revolt that I heard snippets of, so I see that you're making the rounds, which is good. It's good that people are spreading the good word about the flat nature of the Earth. But what I'm curious about is, do you believe in positivism? Do you believe that two people in different places can do an experiment and get a similar result, and thus that is a premise for an underlying assumption or axiomatic knowledge about the world?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is it that you take exception to when astronomers have come to different conclusions with you than you?
What do you mean?
How is it that how is your reading of the data so different than every other astronomer?
Well, astronomers don't actually look, when you look into all the claims about the stuff that's up there, because the medium that those stars and planets and lights that they're all claimed to be in is fake. Outer space, it's provably fake. So when you look into the distance of how all that is, also like how they know the sun's 93 million miles away and all this stuff, it's all assumptions and it's all coming from unverifiable like sources. It's coming from like government just telling people that that's what it is. Like for example, the moon, they say that NASA has like a laser beam that they shoot at these reflective panels that they left up from the moon landings, and that's how they know the distance to the moon. Which is complete nonsense, but
why are lasers fake?
No, outer space is fake, and you can't land on the moon.
You said it was provably fake. How?
Because of the second law of thermodynamics. You can't have gas pressure sitting next to a vacuum. So if outer space was real, our air would just fill the vacuum. So
under that predicates that gravity is null, right? Because are you talking about the gaseous volume?
That's not even what we were talking about at all. It has nothing to do with gravity. So we can go back to gravity.
We were getting there.
So my broader question is, is there a secret cabal holding back this knowledge of that Earth is fake, or excuse me, that space isn't real and that the Earth is flat? Can you talk about that and the mechanisms by which they suppress?
If you look into who initially or who came up with the Big Bang Theory, the Catholic priest. When you look into the whole heliocentric model, NASA was founded by Nazis. The head of NASA was a Nazi. And he was best friends with Walt Disney and actually worked with Walt Disney to, on space with their like cartoons and stuff. When you look into the whole like where this is all coming from, I don't know what you know about the Catholic Church, but those crimes that they were like moving priests around and all this satanic art at the Vatican.
Okay.
Basically, what they're doing is they're lying about our position in the universe to basically confuse you about what this is and where you are, and basically steal your power, basically, and make you think you're a robot. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. They want to make you think you're a robot. It's kind of too much to go into right now, but yeah, so they don't want you to think you have a soul. Essentially, is what it is. But
so you think the Catholic Church is behind the NASA?
Yes. Sweet. Well, it's not the Catholic Church. It's the Jesuit order.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah. So it's the Black Pope that's doing it. So it's Wernher von Braun working on the orders of the Black Pope.
Well, Wernher von Braun is not alive, but
right. But this thing is there's pretext, there's history to this space being real denialism. And the pretext would be you mentioned a Nazi running NASA. You're talking about Wernher von Braun, right?
Okay.
Well, that was a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is that
you thought?
So I'm
Wernher
saying
von Braun was alive. Like 5 seconds ago?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the history of this cabal that's hiding this sacred truth. Right? Is there a religious component to your belief?
It's not a belief because we experience flat stationary Earth, so it's not a belief.
Well, this cabal you're talking about.
Right. Well, that's not a belief either. I mean, I'm just telling you, like, the mainstream history.
Okay,
of
come
NASA.
on, knock it off with this belief nonsense. All right, you understand exactly what they're saying, okay? Like with your worldview,
it's just
okay? So that's fine, whatever.
I understand, but it's inaccurate because you're basically saying you're trying to frame it like I believe something.
Yeah,
but it's not the case.
Oh, I mean, you clearly do. We all do.
Yeah, we all believe things. So just let's knock it off.
We're not like you said. We're not robots.
Exactly.
So we do.
Well, I don't have beliefs about Earth, though. That's the point.
Yeah, whatever. But anyway, can you just answer the question? Do you believe, or whatever insert whatever word you want, right? Do you believe that theory?
That there's people lying about space and stuff, and the ball Earth, and yeah, totally. I mean, of course, there has to be. Like, there's literally.
I did not realize it was going in this direction.
Yeah, well, this is the underlying thing: is what. So, in order for there to be conspiracy, you have to believe in conspirators who are empowered to hide the truth of the thing. So, I'm curious in this lore, in his lived experience of the Earth being flat. I'm curious. What mechanisms they use to suppress it? So you're saying they foment false conclusions on doctored evidence and have proliferated a misunderstanding about physics that would foment the ability to discern the wrong takeaway from space being a vacuum and that the Earth being spherical for the reason that we are hiding the knowledge of ourselves?
No, they don't have to. No, they don't have to lie about like physics and stuff because like physics professors get destroyed with their own like laws and stuff. It's not. Well, anyways.
So
when you're
what is
talking
the
about-
whole point
hold on,
of
hold
this
on.
this big lie? I don't get that. You said something about trying to confuse us and make us think we're robots. That doesn't
Well,
make
it's
any
just
sense to me.
deception.
Could you
Yeah,
explain
it's
that to me,
deception,
the
yeah.
simple robot?
Right. Okay. Well,
Just
if you look at the
walk me
ISS,
through like the reasoning for that. Like, why would I want to
there's
convince
a capital
you?
C's. There's a capital C song called "Free the Robots." Essentially, what they're trying to do is basically this is why they came up. You know, Einstein came up with gravity, right? Which is not real. But basically, Einstein's like a shill, pretty much.
Well,
and when you look into where
Einstein
atoms,
didn't come up with gravity.
well, Einstein's relativity.
Well,
Yeah, it's relativity. Newton came up with gravity.
Sure.
No, Einstein's but Einstein's relativity superseded Newton's gravity. But when you look into where atoms came from, Einstein was the one who proved atoms through calculation. Okay, so when you look into all this stuff about like, oh god,
So we're talking about quantum mechanics now versus classical. So Newton
Not
is
really.
classical. Yeah, exactly. Newton is classical, and Einstein worked in quantum.
no, they're both wrong. But
Well, no, I'm telling you. I'm just explaining to you the
Yeah.
specifics of what you're talking about.
And specifically, people understood that gravity was a thing that existed. It was just that Newton had a theory that explained it as far as relative mass and all that, and then Einstein added to the theory that it varies from time to as a result of density or whatever around
an
black
effect
holes.
isn't a cause. An effect
Right.
is not a cause. So if you see that, if you just call an effect
But anyways,
the cause, that's not. Yeah.
We're getting off the point. I just wanted to kind of
You're
correct
right.
that again. But like, okay,
Free the robots.
What? Why?
They're trying
yeah,
to. Yeah, they're trying to make you think you're like soulless, basically.
Why?
So they could control you. There's a whole lot of. It's really deep. I don't know if.
Let's get deep, dude. Let's get super deep. Go ahead.
Okay, I have to go soon, but.
No. Let's do it. Let's play it out. I've never heard this before, so I want to know this.
I'm fucking all ears.
I don't want to be a robot anymore.
Are you talking about effectively the look that we're biological zombies and we have biological imperatives that we enact and we don't have free will? Okay, so you're talking about
zombie.
They're doing this.
Yes.
So
Zombie.
you're
That's a
doing
great
this.
word.
Thank you. So you're doing this to foam because you feel like there's a soulless rhetoric that they're spreading. But I would ask you, as a positive, what would you take as evidence of the soul being real that they're trying to hide the reality of?
And before you respond to that, I'm going to give you space to do that. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this content, this impromptu flat,
can I go for like 5 minutes and come back? I have to leave for like 5 minutes.
Okay,
Sorry.
sure. All right.
Sorry. I'll be right back.
Sure. Okay. Guys, if you're enjoying this impromptu flat Earth debate, definitely not planned, I can assure you. If you're enjoying this, then be so kind as to support the channel, subs to the channel, give bits or give subs. If you're enjoying this content, it's how I have this space open that we can have these moments, right? These random moments. That only happens because you support. So help out the channel, subs to the channel, give bits or give subs if you want to keep this space open. Nice to meet you. Was it Mythic?
Hey, it's Mythic.
I don't think you can hear
I
us.
think
Okay.
he's on another Discord.
Okay, all right. Well, you can't be on. Oh, I don't know, whatever. But yeah. Thank you. Was it Pause? Hello, hi. Yeah, thank
G'day,
you for
man.
coming through.
Yeah, look, I thought this was about faith, and I jumped on because I believe in a higher power, but not in the way that guy does.
Yeah,
It was slightly about faith at the time. I'm sorry, Zoe, go ahead.
I jumped on and it's like the tail end of it, and then it turned into a flat Earth thing out of nowhere. I didn't really know. I've never actually engaged with a flat earther before, so I didn't know what their this doctrine, I guess you'd call it, that they have. If this is what seems like Mythic knew this stuff, and some of the people in chat.
Yeah.
So
I did have a
never heard
question
this
for
stuff.
you.
Sure.
Which I kind of asked earlier. You said that there's a difference between Earth gravity and then space gravity, or that was kind of like the interpretation that I got. Like, can you kind of
You mean
explain?
quantum mechanics versus quantum
I think
mechanics
that's right.
gravity
I think that's
versus
probably the correct way to explain it.
yeah. So dropping a ball here on Earth we have the observation of the ball
Mm-hmm.
going down and hitting the ground. But on a quantum level, there's a lot more going on than that. And that's why we came up with quantum mechanics in 1915, around there, kind of gradually evolved. And to explain, because on a quantum level, the things that we thought we would expect didn't actually happen. So looking at
Wait. Hold on. I got a little confused here. I'm sorry. On a by quantum, I picture that we leave what happens on Earth and it becomes different in space. Okay.
It's effectively observing the individual states of particles that comprise that object and what they're doing. And they're not all necessarily being dragged toward what we would think of as the ground.
Gotcha. Right.
There's a number of things that are still being worked out in terms of why mass behaves the way that it does, but effectively mass is drawn to mass, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And particles have mass,
right?
Because of the spin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as more and more particles, I'm trying to put this in lay terms, but as more and more particles are drawn together toward each other, there's collectively more mass
right.
together. Our observation of that, or what we've classically referred to for the longest time as gravity, is a byproduct of a great many particles that have come together because of their mass.
Right.
And
so like the way I've seen it explained is like this is kind of high school, so I'm sorry guys. It's you take a circle or like a giant net, and then you put a ball in the center of the sheet of fabric, and then as you throw other circles around there or other balls, it seems to sink in to the center of where that ball is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Except it's in 3 dimensions rather than 2.
Right.
What I'm
so oh, go ahead, Mythic.
What I'm curious about is what transpired in the conversation. How would you guys summarize the conversation that you all had and the topics that you covered beforehand? So I just don't want to retread the same stuff for the audience again. But I'm very curious about the mechanics of the lore of how this works in what's his name?
Yeah.
Travis?
Travis, yes.
Yeah.
Travis, yeah. What it was talked about before, at one point they tried talking about gravity, but then Travis just basically glossed it over really quickly and said, no, see, that doesn't explain it, because no matter what, we have negative pressure, and so all the atmosphere would go into space. What I was going to do was explain about how, because you've got a couple different major factors going on in there. One, you've got mass, and a great quantity of mass that's been accumulated over millennia and millennia and millennia, over and over and over again, that has created this massive amount of collective mass, for lack of a better term, and it's drawing in all the but then in addition to that, you also have, thanks to our molten core, we have our magnetic field.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also part of that barrier, effectively, but not truly a barrier. But charged particles are moving along that magnetic field, and that is creating a form of shield. It's not like a physical shield that we could observe, like the box the guy was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it is something that definitely helps influence the consistency of our atmosphere.
Back in the waiting room. There he is.
And yeah, and so one of the things that we also know is that not all massive objects in space have an atmosphere. Some do and some don't, but it depends on a number of factors, including these what has collected to that mass.
And I mean, the atmosphere does come off these things. It's just that the Earth is so massive that there is a tiny, thin layer of gas that manages to cling to the surface, while most of it gets stripped off. Right?
Well, yeah, and even though I'm not really an astrophysics person, but yeah, even massive objects in space have dust accumulating around them, and smaller objects accumulating around them, because between that is a frictionless vacuum.
I actually think that Mythic's line of questioning earlier was actually right on the money, because
I think that's right, because
the only way in which this
Travis, you kind of left off on like
Travis is here,
the Jesuit order kind of like is withholding this knowledge, correct? Do you remember that?
I don't really care to get into like why they're or like who's lying about it and all that stuff.
But it's really key to this thing, because your line of reasoning can only be true if you disbelieve in everybody else's stuff, right? And that can only happen if you have distrust in the system. And so telling us about how that distrusted system that you have works is really key to us getting on board, because we would need to disprove and disbelieve in all of these scientists, including our friends and including our ability to use their instruments to show ourselves. So please tell us why we shouldn't trust the entire world.
Most scientists just believe this mainstream stuff. They're not actually like looking into this stuff. And if we're going to talk about, who's lying and why, we should establish if they are actually lying first. So this whole notion of the atmosphere, like I just heard you guys talking about that. The Earth is supposedly moving 1.3 million miles per hour in a vacuum in like 6 different directions. Yet air is clinging to this ball, even though this force that's generated by the planet can't even hold gases down where it's strongest.
Well, as much fun as like it would go into that detail of like why.
Yeah, we were just talking about that before you jumped on. Yeah, but the more interesting thing.
Well, hold on.
Okay, you guys want to talk about that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm cool talking about that all day, but then you got into something that I had never heard of before.
All right, we could do that then.
So like what we're talking about is more along the lines of like, everybody's making this claim, as you point at it, right? And then you're telling us contrary information. Therefore, the onus is more upon you to establish that fact than it would be us to reinforce it, right? That's the way I would see it.
Travis, I have this question for you. Are the scientists dumb or liars? Are they wrong, or are they liars, or is it both?
Some are lying. Most, like the massive majority, like teachers who just teach the Earth's Apollo and all that stuff, they just believe it. Like most people just believe it. They don't like lie about it. It's not like millions of people are lying. No, it's just a handful of people lie about it. Like, only 24 people even claim to have gone to space. 500 people have gone to low Earth orbit, and they're the Freemason liars. But everyone else is just believing these broadcasts, and
What makes you think that they're liars?
Hold on, I want to hear Mythic. I want to give you space to.
So you're talking about, thank you, Prime. So you're talking about the elite scientists who get published and come up with like theories and really sketch out the stuff are different than the popularizers of the stuff that like in the education in schools. They believe it because they're not elite scientists, but it's the elite scientists themselves that come up with the theories that are lying or misrepresenting the data.
No. Elite scientists they're not even like concerned with this at all. They're like, scientists aren't fucking talking about this shit. They're not even like researching the Earth or anything like that. They're not like researching whether the Earth's flat or not, or like they're not even looking into that stuff. I mean, there are like, I can give you like PhD in physics who is a flat earther who like destroys globe earthers, but Dr. John D. But the science communicators, people like Bill Nye, Brian Cox, Michelle Thaler, Neil deGrasse, they're liars.
He's a hack. Bill Nye is a hack.
Yeah, those people are.
Song, though.
Those people are actors.
True.
Those people are actors, and they're the liars. They're in on it.
And I would recommend, like, from my perspective, I what I like about people like Neil deGrasse Tyson is that they inspire people to go and pursue this stuff themselves, and that's where I think they have their value. But I think that in a way, I don't agree with your framing, but I do agree that they get away with fudging a lot of stuff and claiming to be authorities on those things.
Yeah.
Particularly Bill Nye. Like, Neil deGrasse Tyson is an authority, but he still yields more to entertainment these days and fudges a lot of stuff in a way that I feel kind of is a little irresponsible.
Yeah, like
But he
says,
inspires, but he
yeah.
inspires people to get into it, and that's the good stuff.
So
Yeah, I mean, he
I
said
want to
that-
know why
yeah.
they're turning me into a robot. What are they going to do with my soul? And what would happen if I
Well-
wasn't a robot?
They're literally they're literally trying to microchip people's heads. Like people are saying that like a long time ago, and people are like, "Oh, those crazy conspiracy theorists." Elon Musk, who's sending shit into space, he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna put microchips in people's heads." Everyone's like, "Oh, that's so cool. Maybe we live in a simulation. Maybe this is all." And it's just like, hello.
So they've been planning this for a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
How far back?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, think about
is
like
it?
what you claimed about the Catholic Church starting this a long time ago, and
Yeah.
them having a reason to make us think we're robots even back then. So what was?
Well,
Like,
back then
if
it
this
was
is
just
all-
yeah. It wasn't quite that led. It's like advanced. It's like evolving. I don't know. They're like
So what's the point of that? You said something about control. Tell me a little bit about that control.
yeah. They just want to get the world down. Like everybody here, probably everyone's just watching this stream. Everybody who's here who's talking right now, myself included. We're not going to be alive within 10 years. Like we're not going to be here. People think, oh, that's crazy too, but
10 years?
yeah,
Damn.
they're moving. They're trying to depopulate the world. They're going in with they're like actually trying. Like they're not.
Well,
Well, anyways,
people have been saying what you've been saying for a long time, that there's like this
yeah.
cabal that's planning on getting rid of us and we're going to be gone. And I remember back when I was a young adult, they were saying that we were going to be gone by the year 2000. That was the big one. So back in when I was like,
Y2K.
yeah, when I was
Yeah.
like 16, I remember there's a bunch of people saying that there's this cabal that's trying to control us and that they're going to wipe out the population and it's going to happen by the year 2000. And it didn't
Right.
happen. And then
Not in
somebody else
focus,
said,
Yeah,
Can't
and then
read.
somebody else is saying
Oh,
it was
there
going
we
to be
go.
like 20 or 2008 or something.
I understand your point. Yeah, people
So,
make
yeah.
predictions about the apocalypse, the end of the world,
And they've been doing that for
wrong.
centuries, right?
Right,
So,
right, and they've been wrong.
so what makes you right?
Well,
What makes that? What made them wrong and made you right?
when you
What's
look
the difference?
into, I don't know, Klaus Schwab, who's on the World Economic Forum, and this like school he has called the Young Leaders or some shit. There's like a school that like Justin Trudeau, Vladimir Putin, all these like presidents and all these people went to, and they're talking about how they're going to. He's like Klaus Schwab saying, I think I feel the need for a great reset. What they're going to do in the U.S. at least is crash the U.S. dollar. So the U.S. dollar is going to become completely worthless. And what they're going to do is basically introduce a new currency that's completely digital. And in order to like be a part of it and be under this new citizenship, which is like maritime law, which is this already all happened before, like the first Great Depression. But they're going to do it again, yeah.
But
And basically, they're going to.
So they keep doing it over and over again, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's gonna get bad. I'm probably not gonna be because especially all this shit I'm saying right now on a live stream.
Yeah, they're going to
I'm
come
not
get
gonna
you.
be able to.
Mechanism
Yeah, my
is-
social.
Hear you.
Mythic, go
They're
ahead.
definitely,
Here,
they're definitely going to come get you.
Mythic, please go ahead.
They're definitely going to come get you. But what's the mechanism by which they're going to depopulate? Just to double down on what you're saying here.
Well, we can't really get into that. Like,
Why not?
we can't
Why
really.
can't you?
Yeah, because
It would be
it's
very inter-
it's
it
deemed
wouldn't be-
it's
All our
deemed
lives are on the
misinter-
line. Tell us.
Yeah, it's deemed misinformation, and you're not allowed to say it because,
On
you know,
Twitch?
yeah, which they
Um,
ban information, which is
no.
you know.
Twitch is
Oh,
okay with conspiracy theories.
You're talking. There's a
I don't
They,
think they
they
are.
don't.
there's
They're
a-
not
you
cool
th-
with.
you're
Co-
Yeah, exactly.
I do want to give Mythic a chance. Mythic has been waiting patiently. Please,
ahead.
Mythic.
So you saying that the novel virus is a mechanism by which the global elite run by the Catholic Church is good using to depopulate the Earth? Blink.
Yeah. I mean, something like that. You got the basics pretty much.
Okay.
How does flat Earth save
So-
my soul, though? How do we break out? If we're so
Well-
flat Earth, how does that make it? Sorry.
All right, I just want to make
That's a
sure
good
because
question.
Mythic, you got a line of question you want to do, please.
Thank you so much. I want to give someone else a place to talk here, but I'm interesting when I asked specifically if elite scientists were doing it. Bill Nye and Phil, maybe deGrasse Tyson is an astronomer, okay? But you said that there's not research being done on flat Earth. Of course there isn't, but there is research being done on space, astronomy, the nucleation of like galaxies and star systems and all. Like there's all kinds of research like that going on. Why are you saying that there's not research going on in space?
No, there is research, like flat Earth research being done like today, and like every day more and more people are waking up to flat Earth. When you're talking about people studying space and everything, they're just looking at the color of a star or a planet, whatever, and then just assuming the element that it is based on the color, which is when you look into how they're doing that, it's actually BS. But then they're getting these grants to like do this. Basically, it's not really like, I don't know, it's not really science because you can't really go up there and test any of that stuff. So you're just observing a light. And
So you're saying because it's not zetetic astronomy, it's not valid science that they're doing?
I don't think astronomy is. How can astronomy be science? You can't test any of that stuff.
It's okay.
You can just observe it.
Right. It's about we're talking about science as to the nature of the cosmos, which you say aren't real. But even then, by proxy, research into how it doesn't exist would still be under the purview of astronomy. But you're talking about the self-experiential stuff where you go out and do an experiment to verify each axiomatic principle yourself. Are you talking about like the zetetic, like flat Earth movement?
I mean, I guess, yeah.
Okay. So
yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you for indulging me. Who is giving the marching orders to the Department of Education to dictate the bad understanding about space to propagate it to the masses?
That's a really good question. We should find those people. You know what we should do? Look, the people know that, like, if you say shit like what I'm saying, like if you're a scientist and you say what oh, the Earth's flat, that you're gonna like destroy your career, and which that's like all these scientists who have TV shows, scientists, not really scientists, like what's his name? Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse. They're not actually scientists, but they have TV shows.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is, but Bill Nye isn't. Bill Nye doesn't claim to be a scientist, but he basically allows everybody to try to jump to that conclusion with the things that he says. He's a science advocate.
Okay, so hold on.
The other guy, Michio
Neil
Kaku,
deGrasse Tyson is an
theoretical
astrophysicist.
physicist. Yeah, he's and the other one's a theoretical physicist, I believe.
In theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a lovely guy.
What the things that you're talking about that you say are not science, you're talking about scientific theory, which is still using the scientific method for observation and for testing. And in some cases you could do experimentation, but in other cases you're limited, and so it remains theory until you can do experimentation.
Right.
So
so
the scientific method allows for these things, and always has. The scientific method has allowed for these things all the way back to the days of ancient Greece.
Okay, but let's just hold on a second. Let me just put this one thing to rest. So if I take a vacuum chamber at sea level and I put a box with air in it and then poke a hole in the box, the air is going to fill the vacuum, right?
In it, you put a
So I have a box with air, like a shoe box with air in a vacuum chamber. I poke a hole in the shoe box. The air in the box is going to fill the vacuum, right?
Yeah, because you don't have enough accumulation of
There's
mass.
not a container.
No,
there's not a
at the point
container.
of center. Well, the
No,
container is
it's at sea level. The
so
Earth's gravity.
again, you're going back to classical mechanics, and you're not paying attention to the quanta. So if you're going to keep blending these two things, you're going to keep coming up with this anomaly.
Well, I'm not talking about. I'm just talking about the effect. I'm just talking about the effect. At sea level, where gravity would be strongest, the force of this planet would be affecting gases the most. It can't prevent gases from filling a weak vacuum.
It's because of all the mass that's accumulated at the center, in addition to the magnetic field.
What do you mean? What center of what?
The center of the Earth.
Right.
So this is why I was trying to get you to go into how mass works earlier, because that was the thing it didn't seem you understood
question.
that.
Well, so gravity doesn't hold air and prevent it from filling a vacuum, right?
Well, air is molecules which are made up of particles. Particles are drawn toward, particles of mass are drawn toward other particles of mass. And over time, as more and more are drawn together, they create greater and greater mass. And from that comes the gravity that you and I experience.
Okay.
Which is just all of our particles being drawn toward the center.
Okay, but it's not holding the air and preventing it from filling a vacuum, though.
Yeah, because what is the air? Molecules made up of atoms, made up of particles. The particles are all being drawn toward the center of the greatest mass.
Except they aren't being held down, though, and prevented from filling a vacuum.
No, they are. That's because there's so much
smoke,
mass here.
Like smoke gets held down too?
It does, yes.
You're shifting scales here. You described an experiment before where you put things in a box on Earth.
And the smoke is being held down by it.
It takes all of the mass of Earth to hold down just a tiny amount of gas.
Yeah, that smoke is not going into space.
Right, but the whole point is it's not holding it down, though. That's the whole point.
It is. No, it is, actually. What you're observing is that we're at layers of that gravity. And because its density is a little bit less, it is able to drift for a bit in this atmosphere. But still, those particles, as they break up, are still constantly being drawn toward the center of Earth. They can still be adjusted and twisted and moved because we have friction. It can be moved by the air that moves within our atmosphere, but no matter what, it's constantly settling back down toward the center of mass. That's why ash with smoke, which is ash, eventually drifts down and lands on things. Like when we get fires going on here in California, we always get those raging fires. Eventually, that smoke comes back down again, and it coats everything.
Smoke's not a gas; it's unburnt particles. So, a gas molecule moves in all directions, though. So,
at a fundamental level, gas is particles.
Okay, but no.
You're talking particulates.
Smoke isn't a gas. Yeah. So.
Well, everything is varying states of energy from particles, right? So
gases aren't. So like gravity is not holding air down and preventing it from filling a vacuum, though.
It is.
So you could say it's
no.
Well, okay,
you keep saying air.
So it shouldn't fill the vacuum.
Describe what air is.
Air molecules.
Which are made of.
Particles.
Well, fundamentally, but atoms that are made of particles.
Well, we don't know that.
Constantly being drawn toward.
Okay, that doesn't. Yeah,
that's not
helping your point. It's just you're just saying what it's made out of. I'm not really talking about that. I'm just talking about the effect. So you can talk about what it's actually made out of, but that doesn't actually matter.
You keep treating air like it's something that isn't affected by gravity, but it is.
Okay.
What we're breathing,
what
we're breathing. Yes, it is demonstrated. What we're breathing is a viscous soup.
Okay. So okay, hold on. Sorry, guys. I've already gone on long. So to my audience, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll have all black everything. It'll be great. If you're new to this channel, hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live, especially for social and chat. For our social media, we got Twitter, where we tweet things, Discord, the Heart and Souls community, where all this is happening, right? This is an open panel. You could have been part of it if you wanted to, right? You could have joined in with us like all these other random individuals did, and we just came together to have interesting conversation. And, of course, there is YouTube, so consider like, comments, subscribing. Okay, so let's...